Hello and welcome to the show. I'm here today checking out European Truck Racing Championship, which has just come onto Games with Gold on the Xbox, so it's free to download for the next month up until the 16th of May. And just checking out whether or not it's worth downloading basically and how much fun the game is. Now, truck racing is a series that isn't all that well known worldwide. I think it's biggest in Europe, hence the name European Truck Racing, I guess, for this game. It's a series that I kind of vaguely know about. I've seen them once a long time ago at Brands Hatch, which is my local track. They were racing there. I think that was the European Truck Racing Championship. Could have been the British Truck Racing Championship, not 100% sure. It was a good laugh to watch. I wish it was on TV a bit more. Basically, they're 5-ton machines doing about 100 miles an hour and bouncing off of each other in pretty much every corner. I've only played the tutorial of the game so far, but so far the game seems fairly true to that real-life nature of truck racing. The AI do seem to be a bit crazy. They kind of just go for any gap that's even slightly there, and they don't care. They don't care. They'll just push their way past you. They'll push their way past each other. You can push your way past them, and that's kind of how truck racing works in real life. So let's get into it. We'll have a look at a quick race and just jump straight into it and see what it's like. So if we go into quick race, you can see there's two different championship series. We've got the European Truck Racing Championship Series and the World Series. There's not too much difference in terms of the pace of the trucks in each one. It's more down to just, I think, the races that you do and the drivers that you drive as well. The trucks themselves are fairly similar in both. I think maybe a couple of different brands in the World Series compared to the European Series, but other than that, they're fairly similar. You've got all the drivers from the two series as well. I'm assuming these are all accurate. I don't know too much about truck racing. As I say, it's not something that I'm too familiar with. We're going to go with this guy, Adam Lacko, just because he's got a gold helmet, so he must be good. He's the 2017 European Truck Racing Champion. Here's a list of the circuit. These are all the tracks that you have in the series. Some of them I'm going to be pretty familiar with, some of them not so much. Things like, even like the Circuit Zolder, it's a different layout to on the Formula 1 game, for example. Laguna Seca is one that pretty much everyone's going to be familiar with. Same with the Fuji Speedway. Played plenty of Gran Turismo in my time as well. So there's quite a bit of choice. We're going to go with, I think, let's go with the Nürburgring. So there's a maximum of 11 AI drivers plus yourself in each race, and we've got all the assists that you can have on here. But let's get straight into a race at the Nürburgring and see what the trucks drive like. So you've got all the tuning that you can do. I know nothing about any of this and how it's going to affect a racing truck, so I think we're just going to get straight into it, see what they're like to drive on this game. There's a big crowd, so it's obviously pre-COVID, because they're not observing a 2-metre distance. So we've been left for dead at the start, that's for sure. You can see what I mean about the AI being absolutely crazy. That's the sort of thing that they do. They go for moves like that, where it's never going to happen, but they go for it anyway. Oh, got the back end out on a 5-ton truck. It's a strange way it drives. It's kind of half simulation, half arcadey, and it's very difficult to describe. You'd imagine it would be more sim-based, seeing as it's a licensed product from the FIA themselves. You'd think they'd want some realism in here, and there is some realism to a certain degree, but it's got that kind of arcadey feel. You know, you can bash off other trucks and still be well within the race. And as I say, that does happen in the actual truck racing, so I suppose that is kind of realistic as well, but it does just feel that you're pretty much indestructible and that you can bounce off anything, and you know, there's no real consequences to it. What I do like is the braking system. So the brakes overheat very easily. You can see in the bottom right the brake temperature gauges. Now they overheat very easily if you're too hard on the brakes, like I was just then. Perfectly demonstrating that. got this lovely lady who speaks to you and gives you both encouragement and advice. And I nearly spun that around there, but we managed to save it. We are under pressure from the green truck, number 32, Cermek. We are being pressured down into turn 1, but we should be okay here. So with the brakes as well, what you can do is spray water on them to cool them down. Now you have a limited water reserve, limited reservoir of water, I guess, to use that, and that's the gauge labelled water in between the temperature gauges for the brakes. Now what you have to do is manage that so that it does last the entire race length, because if you if you use up all your water and your brakes start overheating and you don't have a chance to cool them down, well, then you are in some trouble. And the brakes do not work well once they start to overheat. They don't work well at all. The brakes do get damaged, and they do that does start to slow you down in the braking zones. Now the AI do make mistakes as well, which is, I like that. In Formula 1, the AI don't really make any mistakes, and it's quite unrealistic sometimes. You know, they very rarely crash themselves. It's just too big of a lunge up there. But yeah, the AI do make mistakes in this. They do run wide, they do hit each other, they go for gaps that aren't really there. And it does make it entertaining. The AI will kind of just race you super hard. They'll push you into the walls, they'll shove you out the way to try and get past. And it's not like Formula 1 where you can just block them off by kind of parking in the middle of the road. But then I suppose that's where real truck racing does differ from Formula 1 as well. But you see the AI very willing to fight all the way for a position. I mean, this is a scrap for, where are we, 8th place. And yet this yellow and green truck's still really going for it. He's throwing it up the inside again there.
Keep your brakes cool. Remember to spray water on them.
Lovely lady giving me some more advice there. It's very easy to get the back end out on these trucks by changing down a gear too early. You never really need gear 1 in these trucks. It's gear 2 for very tight, slow corners, and it's gear 3 for pretty much the entire rest of the lap, other than down the long straights where gear 4 comes into play. And you see there we just got the warning for the water tank being half empty. We're about halfway through the race, so that's not too much of a problem. But you do need to be conservative on the water tank, obviously. Keep the brakes cool enough to not get damaged, but also you need the water to last the entire race. One thing that I have learned from this first race is that what gear you're in is extremely important. There's only 4 gears. Oh, we're off the track. We're off the track. That's a jump. And that's a crash.
Try to pick up the pace.
Yeah, what gear you're in is very important in this game. It's very difficult to keep any kind of momentum if you get into the wrong gear, and momentum's key to these trucks. They don't have a lot of torque when you're in the wrong gear. So if you're in one gear too high, they don't have a lot of torque. If you're in one gear too low, you'll bash off the rev limiter and probably spin the truck, as you've already seen me do. They are limited as well. You can see 99 miles per hour. It's about 160, I think, kilometers per hour. And that is the limit of these trucks. That's a real life thing as well. They are limited to that speed. I think they get penalties if they go above that speed. That's a setting that you can put on in the game to say that if you go above that speed you get a penalty. I don't really see how you can go above that speed in the game, because the game, like I say, as you can see, it's limited at 90 miles per hour or 99 miles per hour I should say, and you don't have an option. I have the accelerator flat to the floor the entire way down that straight, and it just doesn't go faster than 99 miles per hour, so I don't see how you can get a penalty for that in game. but it is a setting that you can turn on as well, so I guess that just makes it that little bit more realistic. Our brakes are well and truly gone now. I forgot to spray water on them for a little bit there, and we've got a lap and a half to go with a water tank that's almost empty. We've not done terribly for the first race though. The AI are on the hardest difficulty setting here, just because on the tutorial they were on the normal difficulty setting and they were very easy, but the tutorial also defaults to automatic gear changes. Oh, we're off the track again there. Like, I'm just not used to that being an actual corner, but in racing trucks, funnily enough, it is an actual corner. Yeah, they're very oversteery, these trucks, but you can make it work if you're expecting it.
You're falling behind. Try to catch up. Keep your brakes cool. Remember to spray water on them.
Right, 1 lap to go, practically no water left. I'm just trying not to come last now. I'm just going to try and hold off that orange and white truck behind. I was trying to be really gentle on the brakes there. No! There we go, we've saved it. And we are still in 11th place. Tokyo drifting around the corner. Pulled the brakes a little bit, but we don't have much water left to keep doing it. We're not actually too far behind the trucks in front somehow. The brakes are at the point now. I think when they get damaged they overheat a lot easier, because it's now at the point where every time I brake the brakes are overheating. As you can see there, that was just a little touch on the brakes. And we're out of water now, so let's just hope that we can make it to the end. We've only got a couple of corners to go, so we should be alright. We've managed to keep it on the track through that right-hander now. It's full speed up the hill into the final chicane.
Don't give up. Keep your brakes cool.
Bouncing over the inside curb. But we're going to come across the line and finish 11th. Right, loading times for this game are not fast. There's a few different camera angles that you can have, but it's probably best in cockpit view. It's just a little bit more immersive. We're going to get out of that because there are a lot of cars, a lot of trucks going in very close to each other through that corner. We're at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and I don't know this track, so I'm just kind of sending it on these trucks. I don't know what's coming up. Lost a lot of momentum there because I was in the wrong gear again, and that is, as I say, key to racing on this track, on this game, is just maintaining momentum. Oh, maintaining momentum and being in the right gear. If you lose momentum, you will lose a ton of time. That's just the way these trucks work. Oh, there we go. And it's things like that where you do think that this does have a very arcadey feel, because you just kind of bounce off that wall and carry on. Certain parts of it, like the brakes, I think the handling, or certainly the way the handling feels once you're in the wrong gear, trying to turn a corner, if you change down one too many, it does feel quite realistic. You know, that you start losing the back end, you can change down a gear to try and rotate the back end in if you've got that skill. I keep doing it by accident. Trust me, it's not me you know, trying to drive well or anything like that, or doing it on purpose. It is literally just that I keep getting the gearing wrong. But yeah, it is kind of a mix between that arcadey and that realistic style. But I quite like it. I quite like the driving on this. It's just arcadey enough that you can have a bit of fun with it, and at the end of the day, it's truck racing. We're not taking it too seriously. I don't know if I'd pay out. I think this game's about £45, something like that. I don't think I'd pay £45 for it. But at the moment, while it's free to download, it's I think definitely worth getting. It's a good laugh. You can get in the mix with the trucks, as you can see here. I'm having a bit of a better race than I did at the last one in the Nürburgring. And when you're in the mix with the other drivers, you can see that they're making mistakes themselves. They're not perfect. Look, this one's well out wide. Both of them are actually. I'm sliding it through, but we've made it. So they do make mistakes. It is realistic in that sense, and it is also it's a good laugh that they actually go for gaps. It's not easy to defend against these guys, and it's not easy to overtake either, because they will kind of block you. I don't think they have that much of a racing brain in terms of they'll purposefully defend, but they will just kind of slam into you. They won't just, in Formula 1, if you stick your nose up the inside, they on F1 2020 that is, they just kind of dodge out the way, and that's realistic to Formula 1, because they can't take a hit in Formula 1. The cars can't take it, whereas in truck racing they can. The one thing I am a little bit annoyed about is that the trucks are limited to 99 miles per hour. As I said in the last race, that is realistic, that is true to real life. They can't go any faster than that, but it would be nice to see a racing truck yeeting it along a straight at 150 miles per hour or something, and trying to control that when you get to a turn, although I can't control it anyway. We're going to unsafely rejoin the track here. But it's not quick to shift through the gears. I'd just like to point that out. I was ramming the shift down as quickly as possible there, and he took a long time to shift down all the way to reverse. So now it's just a game of catch up, I guess, and to see how close I can get to the front by the end of this race. But we've rejoined in 7th, if you like, and again, this is another part where I feel like it's quite arcadey. You can have a crash like that and still, obviously lose a lot of time, but not lose too many positions and still be in the race. Damage has just appeared on the windscreen there. I'm not sure where that was from, because I didn't think we touched that car. Certainly the windscreen didn't touch it, but I'll give it the benefit out. I've done exactly what the AI have been doing on that corner, and run a little bit wide there, got out into the dirt for a little bit of fun. And it's cost me some momentum down this fast flowing section through here. You can see again the AI, they take different lines to each other. They don't all just follow the same racing line. It does make it interesting. It is interesting racing against these guys. You never quite know what they're going to do. 3 wide behind me for a second there in bloody trucks, for crying out loud. You can see the turbo gauge down the bottom as well. So you really want to be shifting once that turbo gauge starts dropping in the gears, rather than taking the gears all the way to the red line. But obviously in 4th gear we get to 99 miles per hour, and that's our limit. And I think that is where you lose out. You didn't notice much at Nürburgring, because there weren't so many long straights. But here at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, you do notice it a little bit more in that long back section. As I say, you can take a lot of the corners in 3rd gear. It's only really the tight corners that you have to change down to 2nd, and you never use 1st really in these machines. You can even take some of the corners in 4th, as I'm demonstrating here. Might lose a little bit of momentum, but it's not too bad actually. I'm pretty much sticking with him down through this section. Got him, we're back up to 4th. Oh no, are we? We're back up to 3rd, I should have said there. We're currently in 4th. Now we're back up to 3rd. Run wide on this corner again, but no, we actually managed to keep it on by drifting a little bit. And we're back up to 3rd. This track definitely a lot easier on the brakes. He says not using them enough. But yeah, there's not so many hard braking zones on this track, so you're not going to be using quite as much of the water. As I spin round a second time, and we're going to absolutely get smashed from behind there, or from side on I should say. Completely my fault. I drove sideways across the track, but we don't really care about safety when it comes to these AI drivers. Back down to 7th, but again, you know, a massive crash, spun round, still only down to 7th, so there is that arcadey feel to it again. It's good in that you don't have to be a brilliant driver to be able to compete with the AI. It does mean it's quite an easy game in terms of the AI competition. This is now one setting down, so this is on hard difficulty setting. There is an expert difficulty setting as well, which it was on for the first race, and you could see they kind of left me for dead in the first race quite a bit. Whereas in this one, I've been the faster driver, it's just mistakes that I've made. You see a perfect example of me being in the wrong gear at the wrong time and just having absolutely no answer to the AI as they're pulling away. But you can see the difference in the amount of water we've used at this track, and that's why it's important to manage your water at certain tracks in terms of cooling off the brakes, because you have nothing. Once you've used up all that water, you have nothing to cool the brakes off with, and high temperature brakes on this game just do not operate. See, I don't know why it's spinning there. I tried a bit of cadence braking, which that might have been the issue, but I'm not too sure. It's, as I say, it's difficult to pinpoint the handling of these trucks. They are a little bit all over the place. But we crossed the line, we finished 5th. An enjoyable race. We were definitely the fastest truck on circuit, just made a lot of stupid mistakes. So we're back for one final race. We're at the Winton Motorsports Park, another track that I don't know. I've never driven on any other game. And we're just going to see what we can do in this race here. I do like that how that's a big train of trucks into turn 1.
If your brakes cool, remember to spray water on them.
There's a bit of door bashing between us and the car, or the truck next to us. There's a bit of door bashing going on further up as well. There's a gap, we've snuck through it.
Try to pick up the pace.
We were in the wrong gear, so again we lose a lot of momentum. I do like that you can see there's more bashing of doors between the AI. I do like how aggressive the AI are on this game. It is one of my frustrations with other racing games where the AI will just kind of do their own thing. We're cutting the corner there, cutting the grass. Oh, hello. 5-second time penalty. Never mind about that though. We're just in this for a laugh. You can see they take all different lines, they're shoving their way through on all sides. It is good fun to have the AI racing like this. Yeah, as I say, one of my frustrations on other games, I'm never going to get these words out, are that the AI tend to drive around almost on rails. Hello, there's another truck there. They tend to drive around almost on rails and just wait for the player to overtake them. I'm thinking especially of Gran Turismo and Forza to an extent. Whereas on this game, certainly not the case. They'll make unforced errors, they'll crash into each other, they'll make mistakes, they'll run wide, they'll go off track, they'll go for aggressive overtakes both on the player and on each other. We've hit a penalty marker, so that's gonna, that's gonna affect us. Whereas we're just gonna hit another one as well. Oh well, doesn't really matter. That is not how you drive a lap of the Winton Motorsports Park, but it does put us back into contention with some of these AI as we're breaking down into turn 1.
Keep it tight in the corners. Keep your brakes cool. Remember to spray water on them.
Oh! Got loose there coming off the bend. But we're okay, we saved it. Brakes are overheating once again. This is definitely a track that is harder on the brakes than the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park that we've just left. That's the wrong gear. And once again, they all pull away. There's a lot of it's about momentum, this game. Look at that. Look at that from the AI. All over the place. You don't see that. You don't see that on Formula 1. Look, there's another one that's run wide there. He cut a corner, missed penalty marker. It's refreshing to see, because in a way that's very realistic. That's what will happen in real life. Racing drivers do make mistakes, and the AI certainly do it on here, and it costs them a lot of time, as you saw there from those two AI all inside, and we do make that stick. It's slow racing, but it's good racing. I think actually to an extent as well, the brakes overheating is kind of what saves this game for me, because otherwise I think without that it's a fairly bog standard racing game that isn't too difficult and doesn't really have any kind of draw to it, but it's just an extra dynamic for this game to bring to the table. As we get a decent run off the final corner, we're going to pressurise the number 15 truck into turn 1. He's going to cut us off. Look to the inside. Missed the point where I should have changed up a gear there, so it cost me some momentum. You can take pretty much any line you want through most of these turns, and it doesn't really matter because the trucks are so big and cumbersome anyway, cumbersome, word of the day, that you can't effectively defend, and you can't hold a racing line very well. So they're all sliding about all over the place anyway, so you can take pretty much any line you want into and out of the corners, and just try and take an alternate line to whatever the AI is doing in front of you, and it will give you a chance to make the overtake. And we're going to get out of it for this one, because that's a little bit too far back for a lunge, although we get a much better run through the corner. The brake system does make this game a little bit unique compared to other games out in the market. I've not seen this from any other game, although I suppose maybe no other racing series, as we rub doors for the lead and make our way through totally fairly. I suppose no other racing series other than truck racing use calling of brakes. I'm assuming it's something that truck racers use in real life, but it does make the game, give the game an extra little dynamic. It's something else to think about as well. It's the equivalent, I suppose, in Formula 1 of thinking about kind of when to use your rich fuel mix, when to use your overtake button, that sort of thing, and to save enough for when you need it. It's the equivalent of all of that, so it does just give you that extra little bit to think about during the race. We've got 2 laps to go, and we're already quite a way out in the lead, so I think that could be the action done for this race. Unless I make a silly mistake, which can certainly happen, probably will, has in the last couple of races, almost did there. It's not the best looking of games when it comes to the graphics. It's yeah, we're wide through there. Yeah, it's not the best looking game when it comes to graphics. I feel like the trucks look okay, but everything kind of in the background, the track looks alright itself, but everything kind of in the background of the track leaves a little bit to be desired. You kind of expect more from a game that was made, I think this was released in 2020. Obviously only just come out on Games with Gold, but I think the actual game itself was released in 2020. That was on purpose. Trying to get the back end out through there. You can see there's like clouds of dust as the AI goes skidding around corners in the background. That wasn't on purpose. We do spin. And that could lose us the race. Come on, get going, get going. Get going, you slow thing. It's like trying to accelerate in a slug.
Okay, focus. Keep pushing.
Right, now we've got to catch up to try and win the race. We're back to third. Again, a massive spin that should have completely taken us out of the race. Doesn't really affect us too badly. But we've now got to play a little bit of catch up. I don't know if there's rubber banding in this game. Part of me says that there is, because it's so easy to catch back up when you spin like that. Part of me says that there isn't, just because in the first race that we did at Nürburgring, they just disappeared at the front. So I think maybe that was on the hardest difficulty, so I'm thinking maybe there's catch up on the harder difficulties, there's catch up on the easier difficulties but not on the harder difficulties, which would make sense, I suppose. Oh no, we've lost it. We're definitely not going to win this one.
Keep going. You can win.
Oh dear. We've lost all control. Don't mind me, sir. Right, it's round the wrong side of the... I guess that's a marshal's stand, I can't really tell. His life flashed before his eyes, I'm sure. Yeah, we've completely lost this now. Oh, here come the crazy AI as well. Chucking it out the inside. They didn't make contact with me, which I'm surprised about. I got it stopped in time. Yeah, it's me being a bit silly and going absolutely all out. Trying to win there has cost me any chance of making a comeback that I did have, as I now run wide all over the place and just having a bit of fun now. Oh, I didn't hit that. It's fake news. We aren't going to win the final race of the day, but chuck it up the inside here anyway and make a bit of contact with the orange and white truck that then goes round and spins us as well. Right, let's see if we can... Oh, that's a big collision. Oh, why not? Oh, what? Okay. Well, here's the thing then. It resets you if you try and cheat. So it's not completely arcadey. There is a bit of realism there as well. It doesn't let you just cut off half the track, which is fair enough. It's fair enough. It shouldn't let you do that. Shouldn't let you do that either. I'm glad we got one big meaty collision into the video, because that was a hard hit. The brakes are damaged because I haven't been using. I'll just use the rest of the water on them now. And that's what happens when the brakes are damaged. You just go straight on. Well, we're not going to come last somehow. But that is going to do it for the truck racing game. FIA European Truck Racing, as we slide about all over the place. I'm just going to block them off. And finish 12th with all the penalties that we got throughout that race. Miles behind in the end. Got about 40 seconds worth of penalties. Yeah, it is a good game. It is a bit of fun. Worth checking it out. I'd say download it while you can get it for free. I wouldn't personally pay any money for it, and I doubt many people would unless they're actual kind of fans of truck racing themselves anyway. But yeah, all the time it's free on Games with Gold. For the next month up until 15th of May, I would say check this out, give it a download. I mean, it's free at the end of the day, so even if you have 5 minutes of fun out of it, then it's worth it. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.